Hello everyone, welcome to the Valley News Now Network. We got the great outdoors for you here today with Doug Leier. Doug, thank you very much for joining us here today to talk some more shop about the outdoors here in North Dakota.
Such a beautiful day. Maybe we should be outdoors, but it has absolutely been a beautiful run, sunshine, and gives you a great excuse to get outdoors and soak it in before the weather change comes.
Yeah, absolutely. And for you personally, have you ever seen this type of weather this early in October like this before?
Look at me, Duke. I'm an old man. I've seen it. I've seen it all. No, I mean, and that's one of the beautiful things that we have about the outdoors, whether it's North Dakota, South Dakota, or Minnesota. We always try to encourage people is to don't let the calendar tell you what to do, because it's such beautiful weather. If you want to go fishing, by all means go fishing. I've got a buddy that says that I'm not sure if it's today or tomorrow, he's going to go water skiing. Because anybody can water ski around here in July. Exactly. But water skiing in October is pretty rare air to be in, and that's the beautiful thing of it, because it hasn't been optimal hunting weather for archery deer, for waterfowl. It's been really, really warm, and instead of getting frustrated with it, you just take what the weather gives you, and you go, similar, we use these sports analogies, and it's take what the defense gives you. And that's what we're saying with the outdoors. Take what the weather gives you. If you want to go fishing, if you want to go water skiing, if you want to go swimming, hey, get out there and enjoy it.
Hey, the water should be warm. I'm not a cold water guy, so that's the only way you can get me out there.
Yeah.
Well, now we can kind of dive into things here, Doug. Obviously, we talked last week with Devin about the youth waterfowl season, and now we're kind of moving into that early waterfowl season. Just tell me about that, what we're working up to here.
And again, that's what the calendar tells us, is it's waterfowl season. The full waterfowl season opens up this week, and quite frankly, the last couple of weekends for our youth waterfowl, our early waterfowl, haven't been the best duck hunting weather. There's ducks out there, and the folks that are getting out there, they're finding a few ducks, they're battling mosquitoes and sunburn and everything that goes along with it.
The Asian beetles on top of that?
Oh, man, yeah.
Gosh,
it's
bad.
Just, it's one thing after another, but it doesn't deter people. Seldom do I remind people to take sunscreen when they're going out hunting, but take your sunscreen along with you. Yeah. The regular full waterfowl season opens up on Saturday, and basically what this means is the youth, the residents, and now the non-residents, and this is where we have hunters from Wisconsin and Minnesota, from all across the country that are traveling to North Dakota, and it's going to open up on Saturday. And similar to what we've had with the other earlier seasons, is the ducks are going to be there. The weather isn't going to be optimal, but that's not going to keep people from just celebrating the beginning. It's like a opening day. It's like a kickoff. So you just get out there and you enjoy. And so we've got a lot of non-residents that are traveling to North Dakota to start off the waterfowl season on Saturday.
Yeah, and have you ever seen personally people come from out of country to go waterfowl hunting in North Dakota and kind of explain to us, their reasoning to be here?
It really is hard sometimes for us to really get our arms around the fact that this is like the Walt Disney World of the outdoors. There's something for everyone, and people travel from all across the country, all across the continent, and they're flying into Fargo airports and Bismarck and Grand Forks and Minot, because this is like the Fort Knox of duck and goose hunting. And we really saw this probably explode during COVID, because there were restrictions on hunters going to Canada, and other states have more stringent restrictions on non-residents. In North Dakota, we've made some changes in our non-resident waterfowl season. We used to have 3 zones, now there's 6 zones, 3 in the north, 3 across the south in North Dakota. So there have been some changes, but we still don't have a quota or a cap. So essentially, if you want to come and hunt ducks and geese in North Dakota, there is no top end limit. There's no 20,000 limit, 10,000 limit. Again, other states have quotas and restrictions. In North Dakota, we don't have that. What we try to do, and what has changed, is adding more zones. And this was done by the North Dakota legislature. There used to be an option to hunt the entire state. That has been removed. There used to be 3 zones. That's been changed. Now there's 6 zones. So if you are a non-resident, or you've got friends or family that are traveling here to hunt in North Dakota, there's been some changes. So you might want to take a minute and review some of those.
Yeah, and when you bring up the zoning changes going from 3 to 6, for the people who may be just starting out here, what does that actually mean when you add more zones or less zones?
What it does is it spreads hunters out more versus just think of it this way. If there's one great place in town to get pizza, and everybody goes there, and there's lines and lines and lines, and there's no place to sit, that's a pretty big example of what I'm saying with waterfall hunting. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of a visual. What this does is instead of everybody being able to go to Harvey or Napoleon or Devil's Lake, it spreads them out across North Dakota in those zones. We've got some day restrictions where you can hunt 7 days in one zone and then 7 days in another zone, but you can hunt 14 total days as a non-resident. They just can't all be in the same zone. So it gets a little bit intricate, and what that does is try to preserve the quality of the hunt. Again, if you compare it to that pizza, if everybody's going to the same place, you get a little bit frustrated with the competition and the congestion and no place to sit, and then maybe the pizza's cold or they run out of pepperoni. And with this, you have less congestion, less competition, and hopefully that improves the quality of the hunt for everybody.
Right, and when people get these licenses for the waterfowl hunting, would they be selecting one zone per license, or can they add multiple zones on a single license?
Right, that's a good point. So you do need to pick your zones prior to hunting. You can't start hunting and then say, well, this is the wrong zone, I'm going to a different zone. You pick those zones ahead of it, and that's probably one of the big things to remind people of. And then after that, within those zones, you don't have any restrictions within those zones.
And besides that, too, like you said, kind of spreading things out here.
Yeah.
I gotta imagine these other communities that are kind of getting split up here. They got to be kind of ecstatic about it that not everyone's going to Devil's Lake or one single place.
And you bring up some good points, Duke, is that there is something to be said for spreading out. But we're not hiding from some of it because this was done legislatively. This wasn't done by Game and Fish. But when you have 3 zones and you go to 6 zones, well, if you've been hunting in North Dakota for 10 years or for 15 years and you got used to the way the zones were, there's always going to be a little bit of disappointment. There's going to be some frustration. Anytime you start drawing lines, think of it as if you had season tickets and now they split up the section in the stadium that you usually sit, and instead of sitting in the same section, now you've got to move sections and with your son and daughter. So it does come with some frustration from some of the non-resident hunters, but that's what the legislature did, and from Game and Fish's standpoint,
and they're coming to North Dakota too. It's not in their own state.
Yeah, no, and you've got a really good perspective of that. Is you're visiting North Dakota, and we also we don't have our head in the sand. We realize that there are non-residents that own land for hunting in North Dakota, and again, nothing's going to be perfect for everyone, and that's the reality. Is we try to strive for the balance, but we understand, and this is not something that's set in stone for perpetuity. It's not like it has to be this way every single year. There can be adjustments made moving forward, Duke.
Yeah, and for the real hunting heads that just love the sport in itself, can they hunt in all 6 zones if they split it up correctly, or is there kind of a cap on that?
Nope, they can't. So they got to pick 1 or 2 zones. And again, everything comes to trying to do the best for all of the hunters and spreading out that 6 zones, 3 in the north, 3 across the southern part of the state. And you can hunt 7 days in one zone and then 7 days in a different zone. Pick that other zone.
Perfect. And I'm seeing here the $5 electronic waterfowl stamp requirement that you have going on here too.
Yeah, and that's new. That's new for both residents and non-residents. So if you haven't done that, that's to give better data on exactly where North Dakota hunters and waterfowl hunters, whether they're non-residents or residents, where they're hunting at. Because in the past we did not have that. We have a federal duck stamp and a small game stamp, but a specific waterfowl stamp is not something that we had. And this is new this year, so whether you're a North Dakota resident or visiting North Dakota, that's a new requirement.
Great. And something else that's coming up here, Doug, that's going to be the youth pheasant season coming up this weekend here. And I love what you guys do here with the youth seasons, especially considering this is such a big part of the state's history. Being able to let these youngins take the floor first and kind of build that love, that's just so big for this community, I gotta imagine.
Ever seen a basketball game where at halftime, or a football game at halftime, they let the little kids go out there?
Yep.
And they get to play on the same court. They're not playing against the adults. They're playing against themselves. And that's a little bit of what this is like, is you're in the same field, you're in the same game, but you're not competing with the adults. And we had this with our youth deer hunt. We had this with our youth waterfowl hunt. There's a youth turkey hunt, and the youth pheasant hunt is Saturday and Sunday in North Dakota. And it is for residents and non-residents alike, 15 and younger. There's licensing requirements that go along with it. It's a hunt where we want mentors, parents, dads, moms, uncles, neighbors to be out there with them. The mentor, the adult, cannot be hunting. So this is not where, hey, I'm going to duck hunt and you can pheasant hunt. This is something where we want your attention to be on that young hunter, is the whole purpose behind that, to give them a positive experience out in the youth pheasant hunt in North Dakota. And the other side of that is this is not the only time to take them hunting. This is for them for the youth pheasant hunt, but take them with you. The regular pheasant season opens up the following weekend, and also on the youth pheasant hunt. Just remember that all the other bag limits and the other rules and regulations go along with it. In North Dakota, blaze orange is not required, but it is something that is very much suggested. A blaze orange hat, blaze orange vest if you're going to be upland game hunting.
Absolutely. Should be an exciting one.
Yeah.
For these kids too. I guess I gotta ask here, have you seen any of the numbers of youth hunters by doing this kind of program for waterfowl, for pheasants, and all these other things?
Yeah, we have seen a growing interest in hunting, and some of that we can see through the high school sporting clays, the high school trap shooting. We can see that through archery in schools, and we see that through our youth hunts. And I'm a guy that grew up without youth hunting opportunities. They're relatively new, the last 20, 25 years, and it's just with all the distraction of this world. I'll tell you what the cool thing about it is. In the past, I've had football coaches call and say, "Man, I got 2 kids." that they don't want to play on Friday night because their dad wants to head out to Devil's Lake. They want to head out to Harvey and go duck hunting and go pheasant hunting for this youth season outside. So there's a lot of pull. And one of the things that we remind the parents and the coaches alike is you got a full season for football. You got a full season. This is a youth weekend. This is one weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and it's just a great opportunity to get those kids outdoors, Duke.
Not to mention, you can hunt for the rest of your life. You never know how long that high school football career lasts, even though if you think that if you didn't have that ankle injury, you could have made varsity.
Yep. No, absolutely right. And that's the reality of it. And these are lifelong sports. These are lifelong opportunities. And the heritage and the legacy of hunting where we live, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, just continues on.
Right. And now as we head closer to the winter here, but with the weather we have, you kind of mentioned it off the top, Doug, the fall fishing. We don't see that really too much because the seasons vary so much, but no, the water's still open out there. What can you get?
Man, our fishing has been just absolutely spectacular because we've had the weather. Sometimes it's the hardcore anglers in September where it's colder and windier, and now it's been so nice.
Isn't that when the fish like it though?
Yeah. They absolutely do, and it just makes it a little bit harder for people to man, it's cold, it's windy, I don't want to go fishing, and this weather, it's been hard to come up with an excuse not to go fishing. And one thing I would suggest, if you'd like to, if you haven't been fishing in early October, check out the Game and Fish Department website. You can find different spots to fish. Through our website, you can find different counties. And when you drill down the county, say you live in Fargo or Grand Forks, and you're going to go to the western part of the state, you're going to head on out to Dickinson for the youth pheasant hunt, or head out to Crosby or Williston. You can check out like Williams County or Stark County, and then you can find all the different fishing waters right within that. So you could go pheasant hunting in the morning, and then you could go fishing in the afternoon. And the way this weather is, you could go golfing. You could go golfing later on in the day. I mean, that's
that.
Yeah, everything. We just encourage people to get outdoors. I mean, that's just a beautiful thing about where we live. There's so much to do outside.
Yeah, is there any fish that's biting a little more around this time?
Well, we should be seeing a pretty strong walleye bite heading. As the weather changes, we should northern pike and walleye. We've been having some good reports on bluegill and crappie, so it's really been actually quite good. Even the Red River, Grand Forks, Fargo, the Red River, because we haven't had a real strong influx in the Red River Valley of water. So the rivers are down below their banks. It's actually been some of the best catfishing that we've had in a while. So you don't have to go very far. That's one of the beautiful things about where we live is you're probably just a cast or two away from finding a spot to fish.
Right. That's got to be exciting, especially when you have this type of weather, and then once things kind of slow down and end, well, you're right there for ice fishing. That's right around the corner.
Nobody wants to hear that, Duke. They want to hear beautiful sunshine through Thanksgiving, and then we'll go ice fishing. One of the things. Very seldom do we hear people say, you know, winter just didn't last long enough. It didn't come early enough. It didn't stay long enough. Now summer and sunshine, man, people want to hold on to that because we know pretty soon those beautiful colors of orange and red, they're going to be replaced by white.
Very soon, and bare branches.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Well, that's kind of takes us into our next topic here. The upcoming seasons that are going to be opening here. You know, we got elk, Canada geese, pronghorn, and I guess we even have a moose season here, huh?
Our antelope season opens up on Friday at 12 noon. The gun season in North Dakota. So there's a lot of different seasons that are open up. Probably some of the biggest one is the regular pheasant season is going to be opening up next Saturday in North Dakota. So that's probably really the next big one is going to be the pheasant season. And then Friday, November 7th, I don't have the calendar in my head, but Friday, November 7th is when our deer rifle opener in North Dakota. So we've been opening up seasons, and within that we've got some lucky hunters that have drawn elk tags and moose tags, and just a fun time for them. Just a great time.
Well, it's kind of that same, in the aspect of the sports realm. It's pretty slow in that summer. You got baseball going on, but otherwise not too much. And then the fall opens up, and you got a floodgates of volleyball, cross country, football.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing here with all these seasons opening up. How do you guys manage this? It's got to have that kind of same feeling where, all right, the slow season's over. It's time to lock in.
Yeah, and it's a nice problem to have. Similar to the moms and dads that are trying to get this kid to this practice and to this play and to watch their cousins or their nephews play as well. Our Game and Fish Department website is just a great place to keep a handle on all the different seasons that are opening, and if you're looking for any information, if I need to get a license for this, you can buy that. We've got an app where you can buy your license right on the app. You can download it onto your phone, so you've got your legal license right there with it. So I really want to encourage people to try to stay connected. And the last part of it is make sure you put safety at the top of the list. I mean, there's going to be literally thousands of people out in the field, and the safety doesn't begin when you get to the field. It begins with putting on your seatbelt, planning, making sure you let your family know, hey, we're heading to Devil's Lake. Well, if plans change and you decide we're heading to Dickinson, let somebody know. I encourage people, there's a lot of different tracking apps out there, to use those, because in this day and age, even if it's just, hey, I need to get a hold of you because plans changed, the basketball game got changed, the football game got changed. Just make sure that you're letting people know where you're going, who you're going to be with, and that's just all part of that safety message of whether it's keeping an unloaded gun in your vehicle, wearing a seatbelt when you're traveling there, before you squeeze your trigger, knowing where your hunting party is at. So there's a lot of different components of that, but the safety message can really be wrapped up, and be intentional about it. Make sure that is something that you are very intentional about.
Yeah, maybe one of these great outdoors shows, we could just kind of go through all the trinkets you guys have, the app, the website, things of that nature that you kind of have to do a little bit of digging for, but once you see it and it's at your hands, then that could really help people out when they're out and about.
Yeah, there's an Onyx app that a lot of hunters use, and I was actually just talking to a hunter yesterday. When you buy your North Dakota license, that Onyx app, you get it free for 3 months through Onyx as a third party, but it's a great tool for people that hunt. And this guy had no idea that, because he was looking for electronic mapping that gives landowners and gives electronic posting.
People know this exists. It's just, where do I find it?
Right. So that's a good idea. We'll do that. That's a deal. For
sure. I like it. We'll wrap up here, Doug, with kind of one of my least favorite seasons is when, the deer are out and about, especially those late nights with these crossing roads, deer crashes happening everywhere. It seems like it really varies by year. I lived in Wisconsin for 3 years. First year, didn't notice it too much. Second and third year, it just felt like there's just far more deer crossing the road. Just kind of tell me what you can about here in North Dakota.
Yeah, and it's not a coincidence. You do see this time of year more deer. And there's a number of different factors. So it comes back to being aware. And you might be traveling out to a football game and driving back, and what wasn't going on a month ago was a soybean harvest. And there's more people that are traveling, going to games, and sunset has adjusted, closer to those, like 7:30. I can't remember exactly what time sunset is right now, 7 o'clock in that range. And so you're driving, and you're driving into the sunset. And so you're driving into the sunset. It's a little bit harder to see. There's combines that are out there taking soybeans off, and then there's dust in the air. Those combines are scaring up animals, and it's not just deer. There can be all kinds of different critters that are getting scared, and it's going to continue on once we get into the corn harvest. So when the combines are into the corn, you're going to see even more deer moving. So we try to remind people that this is a peak time. If you look at the statistics, October into mid-November is a peak time for deer vehicle crashes. So number one, be aware of it even more this time of year, and understand that the young fawns this time of year are going to start moving away from their mothers, becoming a little bit more independent. So when you see one deer, always be aware that there could be another deer. And just because they see you doesn't mean they're going to stop. And
they'll give you the dead eyes.
They do. And they're like, okay, this is, and then they jump out onto the road. Safety advocates will tell you that you're better off hitting the deer than swerving and going into the ditch. Now, it goes against your own human reactions. The best thing that we can suggest is to brake, and if you can, try to avoid the deer, but don't swerve and go into the ditch. Don't swerve into oncoming traffic. Don't swerve into the other lane and there's another vehicle coming the other direction. You don't want to necessarily hit the deer, but statistics show you're safer to hit the deer than you are to go in the ditch and potentially roll, to go into the other lane, potentially have a head-on collision. So being aware of that can help maybe reduce the potential for deer vehicle collisions.
And you mentioned a little bit about the the sunset and dusters pulling these deer out. But when it's later at night, when it's pitch black out there, what has them moving at those hours?
And that there's also combines moving in the late at night as well. So there's a lot of different factors that come in. It can be just another car driving down a gravel road. It could be a predator. There's a lot of things, but you're typically going to see more deer movement in dawn and dusk. They're a lot more active right before the sun comes up, and then right before the sun goes down is when the deer are going to be most active. So please be aware of that.
And I don't know if this is a good pointer either. This is just one of those Midwest dad things, that your pops tells you. He let me know, and I've had this work a couple times, so the expert can let me know if it's good practice. But during those hours at dusk and dawn, kind of having your hand on the horn, ready to just give maybe the deer a jolt in the ditch to turn around and run away. Is that?
The horn can help. The horn can definitely help. Caution people of whatever you're comfortable with in driving. If somebody says have your toes on the horn, I'm going to say it's probably not the best advice. But keeping your hands on the wheel is always a good suggestion. Being ready to hit the horn.
Right.
The cool thing is sometimes you got horns on your thumbs. So, they're in different places. But the horns can definitely help. No doubt about it.
Absolutely. And when we when do these deer really start to slow down here for the winter, late fall?
and winter is probably
even if they slow down.
The winter does help because once you have the snow on the ground at night, you can see them a lot easier, and they're going to be conserving their energy when it gets cold, so they're not as likely to move. And and right now, heading in towards November, when we get into the rut, they're going to be moving at all times of the day. So there's a lot of different variables right now that make deer movement a lot more evident. And then once we get into winter with the cold and with the snow, you can see them a little bit better, and they're not going to be moving quite as much to conserve some energy. Right,
and this may be maybe kind of a stupid question,
no,
but when you see an influx, when you see more deer and car crashes for a season, is there a correlation to the successful hunts that come around?
Well, and it can be, but also realize that the speed limit is now 80. And when a deer comes out, you don't have to be a highway patrolman to tell you that slowing down, stopping from 80 to 0 or from 75 to that extra 5 miles per hour takes longer for you to react. So we may see an increase in deer collisions because of speed limits on interstates. So it's really kind of interesting when you look at all the different factors that come into play for car-deer collisions. And the bottom line is we can do some things to try to prevent that and to reduce those impacts, and that's worth getting the message out for.
Yeah, and what do you have in mind?
Well, as far as
as far as preventing these collisions.
Right. So again, it's being more aware right now, and when you see one deer, because sometimes people think, oh, one deer crossed the road, didn't see it. A lot of times there's a second one and a third one, and just because they run up the ditch doesn't mean they're not going to cross the road and stop. Sometimes they stop right on the edge of the road and they run back out there. So yeah,
Could be even hiding in smaller fawns hiding in that taller grass too.
Right, and they see mom cross the road, then they decide, well, we'll try crossing the road, and the next thing we have situations where the deer actually run into the side of a vehicle. It's not the front end collision. So yeah, it's it's never going to be a situation where we can completely solve the problem, but there's things that we can do to try to help reduce those. And again, reminding your son or daughter when they're going to volleyball practice, when they're going to football practice, that hey, be careful because the way the sun's set and you're driving into the sun and you're a little bit blinded. There's some soybean dust out there. Just consider that there could be deer even if you didn't see them when you drove by a couple hours earlier.
And I'd say they'd have just as unpredictable behaviors as any animal. You mentioned, running into the side of the car. I had an experience myself when I had my learner's permit. We were going to a basketball game at the school. A deer popped out, but then started running alongside my car. And I mean, being a 15-year-old, I was like, what is happening? What is happening? Why is this deer doing this?
Yeah. And did it cross then?
It didn't cross. It would just
veered off.
Because
sometimes they will. They'll run alongside and they'll go down the ditch, or they'll run alongside and they're like, oh, I can try to cross, and schmuck.
Yeah, just a big wild card animal. You can really never predict their next move.
That's a good point. They are very unpredictable.
Awesome, Doug. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining me here on the desk. Great to host it with you. I've been itching to talk to you and chop it up. So appreciate you, Doug.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Of course, and thank you guys for joining here on the Valley News Now Network with Duke Schindler and Doug. We'll catch you later.